we are in the series of Friends of God. So we are actually going through several sessions to learn more about how God has actually loved us and shared an invitation for us to be His friends. So in one of the first week, actually Jesus said that I have called you friends. So all of us are actually friends of God. And through the series, we actually want to understand more on how we can actually respond to that love of God. And not only to love Him back, but also to love others around us. So that's where actually 1 month ago, I think Fina shared with us on an introduction. And then last week, 2 weeks ago, we actually had Toby shared with us about how to respond to God's love. So let's do a bit of recap because some of you, I think, didn't come for the previous session. So let's test your knowledge for those who came. Okay, Ben seems like you know a lot. So anyone want to share what you guys learned for the past 2 weeks about responding to God's love? Sorry? Parable of the sower. Yeah. So what's about the parable of the sower?
Good soil.
Good soil. Good soil. Yes. So actually, in the parable of the sower, it's about the seed, which is the word of God that is given to us, and then we actually have whether we are a rock or we are a concrete or whether we are a rich soil that we need to strive to. So that's actually one. What else?
My teaching was destroyed.
Huh?
My teaching was destroyed.
Okay, you want to repeat what you share? Anyone? Anyone else? What you guys learned? Battle plan. Okay, what about battle plan?
Going to battlefield.
Okay, so we had one testimony about battlefield. So yes, so basically last week I think Toby shared about this term that the occasions. The occasion, yes, right, occasion that we have to be conscious about, which is because I wasn't there. I was I was in retreat, so I didn't come. So anyone who came? So what was that?
Blast in the battlefield.
Blast, yes. So what does blast stand for?
That's creative, but
Lonely, BL, and then A,
Angry, sad, tired.
and then sad and
Stress.
stress.
Also
Tired.
up and down what psychological effect like
Yeah, like stress.
like
Maybe
psychological abuse like psychological
yes. So that's blast. So what is blast? Occasions. Okay, Toby keep shaking your head. So you want to share again?
Blast is an emotional state.
Emotional
It's usually
state.
negative. So when we are in a negative emotional state, we have the tendency to fall down into the temptation, right? So usually when we are bored, it's very easy for us. When we are stressed, when we are tired, just be lazy.
Yeah, so those are the emotional state that we need to watch out because that's actually the easiest time where devil will tempt us to fall into sins. So that's why we have to create our battle plan, like what Tommy shared, to be aware of what are some of the unhealthy behaviors that we consciously or unconsciously do that prevent us from growing closer to God, from responding to His love. So that's a brief snapshot. Anyone else has the last thing to share about what you guys learned from 2 weeks ago? Okay, yeah, so if no more, so basically for today, what we'll do today is basically as a continuation. After talking about how we respond to God, which is actually more on the vertical part of the cross, so today we'll talk about the horizontal part of the cross, on how we actually respond to God's friendship, how we respond to God's love by giving our life for others, by loving others. And you know the word love others, love your neighbor, I think it's like, I don't know how many multiple times mentioned in the Bible as part of God's command for us to love others as we love ourselves, to love one another as how He has loved us. So why actually we are called to give our life for others? Why God has to repeat so many times in the Bible of love others? Any guess? It's important. Yes, it's important. And why? Because basically, each of us are actually created with the desire to be in communion. So just like God that is actually in communion, God Father and God the Son, as well as God the Holy Spirit, they are in communion. And because we are created in the image of God, so that's where actually God created each of us with the desire to be in communion. God put in us the longing to be with one another. And although I think nowadays there are the culture is growing to be more of independence, so that we can do everything on ourselves, as long as we have gadget, of course. But actually, deep in our heart, we do long for communion, the presence of each other. And you know, like I believe all of us are in Facebook, right? Or anyone doesn't have Facebook account? You know, like I was actually surprised that today when I looked through in my Facebook, I actually have 1,200 something friends. And I was like, wow, I didn't expect that ever since I actually log in into my, create account in Facebook. I built up so many friends that is in my list. And then I started to kepo, look at the other people, and then like, wow, actually in average, I think those that the service team, like I see, wow, actually I think most of us in average, we have like from 500 all the way until 1,600 friends in our Facebook. Which is, like, then it made me wonder, you know, like actually we have so many friends based on the data in our Facebook. But how many are those friends are really our true friends? And actually, like a few weeks ago, I realized actually some people, some of us, like mentioned, yeah, I don't know whether I have a friend, I feel a bit lonely and all that. But actually, the list of friends are actually a lot, like more than 1,000. And we realized that actually, although nowadays the culture in today's society, you know, like, oh, yeah, I have a lot of friends on Facebook, but actually, it's how the society now like really make the word friends become shallower and shallower. It's really just a matter of adding click a button, and it's instead of like a place for friendship, it's actually really true to its name. It's actually a digital book of faces, because that's where you can see people's faces, you can see their photos and all that. But deep in our heart, we actually can feel lonely even though we have thousands of friends on Facebook. So each of us again long for that communion with others. Each of us long for that connection with one another, because God has created us for communion. And God also created us actually in a way to give our lives for others. So God doesn't create us because like, okay, Irma, I created you for you. I created Devi for you, Devi, and maybe for your mother, like, or for your father. No, so God actually created us for the good of others. God called us to give our life for others. And actually, in any vocation, you know, like there's a priesthood, there's marriage, even religious life, or even the single blessedness. It's actually about giving their life to others in different way. Either it's to the church, which is for the priesthood, or the religious for a certain mission of the order, or marriage, which is to the spouse, to the husband, or to the wife and the children, and as well for singlehood, for a certain mission that God is calling us. So each of us has a mission, has a vocation, has a calling, which actually at the end of it is actually the same. It's about how we give our life for others. And God also called us for giving our life with love that is actually agape. You know, there are 4 different types of love. So the first one is actually eros, which is sensual or romantic love. There's also storge, which is more of a parents and child. There's also a philia, which is a brotherly love or brother and sister. But actually the love that God has given to us, the love that He has shared through the friendship that He gave to us, is actually an agape love. So what does it mean by agape love? What makes agape love different from the others? Please, anyone can answer.
No hidden
We'll get nothing, just a blessing from God maybe.
Is it no hidden motives?
Sorry?
No hidden motives. Like unconditionally.
Unconditional. Yes, very good,
That
Andre.
means like love people for who they are, not compare like that.
Yes, love for who we are. Anyone else? What it means by agape love? Yes,
Can I
Greg.
try? I think it's like initiated by God first. God initiate first.
God initiate. And
Yes.
how does God initiate that love?
I think the most obvious one is when He sent His Son Jesus.
When His Son Jesus. So really, what happened with Jesus after He sent Him to earth? Yeah, die for us. Sorry, then.
You grow up.
He grew up, yes, become carpenter.
Yes.
He started by giving himself as a carpenter. Then after that, he actually died on the cross to save all of us, to love because of he loved
I
us.
mean, that's the most normal thing anybody could ever do, right?
Yes.
Right, who wouldn't doubt that one, right?
Yes.
Who would doubt?
And as God has given that agape love for us, so similarly, God is also inviting us to share the love in agape way. And each of us may feel like, okay, now all of us here in this community, yeah, we are like brothers and sisters. But can we be that channel of agape love like how God has shared with us? So that's actually why God called us for to give our life for others, because God created us in communion with the longing for connection, as well as God is calling us for that agape love, which He has shown through His own example of sending Jesus to us. And only when we give our life, we actually discover the life to the fullest. And sometimes, like when for me myself, giving life to others, it's not easy, right? But actually, there are times when I realize when someone else really feel they experience the good thing of what I have done to them. When someone give me affirmation of what I have, of how my action actually changed their life, actually it indeed give me the joy and the fulfillment in my heart. So that's actually also how, like, as we give our life, sometimes it's challenging or difficult, but actually that's how we also can experience the life to the fullest, the joy that lasts and not just the temporary things. But again, it's not easy. And maybe let's also hear from some of you, like why giving our life for others is difficult. Any thoughts? Yes, Andre.
Well, I got a lot of thoughts. So, okay. One thing is that a person's life is very complicated. You may not understand what this guy is going through. Worst is if people are very famous. You know what? Actually, I did read an article about nerd versus famous people. Those popular kids they actually struggle a lot with that because they don't know how to really connect people. They just stuck in their bubble and on. Because you know what? When I say that if you cannot have community, you can't understand the purpose, right? Tell me. It's basically the popular people, they are stuck in their bubble. They only just do what is required of them, just like puppets are that, but never even experience the world.
Yes.
That's the problem.
The challenge is because we are all different, right?
The most popular
Sometimes
they
we
are
don't
stopped by
understand.
fans, they cannot move on, they need to have a plan, and then it's a very lonely life as a celebrity,
Yeah.
Because the lesson learned is that appreciate life and try not to always go for celebrity status. If you're a celebrity, normally a lot of celebrity status, I know that they came from broken relationships and families they never really had. One time a celebrity go and scold a lady, then we should break up. Just stop already and stop harassing me like that.
Yeah. So you see, like even like Andre talk about life of celebrity, which is very complicated.
Nerds actually cope very well with situations and they learn how to understand people and then
Yeah.
that's why please support the nerds.
Yeah.
No, really, because they are bullied, they never have any friends, but they cope life very well. Nerds.
Yes, must appreciate the nerds, the quiet ones, and sometimes it's not always easy because each of us are created differently, difficult to understand, and it takes time to understand.
Sometimes nerds are quite friendly compared to popular. Popular, a lot of them are shy people, or maybe like quiet people.
Yeah.
And it's not always necessary. Sometimes more likely it's the nerds, those who are very rejected by society.
Yeah, those rejected by society are those that we also need to pay attention to. Yes, so like to give our life for others is not easy, and we really need to learn from God. So today we'll learn more about like how we give our lives by being friends for and with others. Giving our life, there are actually many different ways. It can be through our work, through the things that we do in the office. But today I want to focus more on like how we actually can become the friends of God by being friends for others, for one another, for the people around us, and we can start from the circle that are near to us, which is the people in this community, for example, or even our brothers and sisters that we meet every week. Yeah, and the Lord says, actually, I tell you the truth, whenever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you actually did it for me. I believe most of you are familiar with the story where, like when you give me food, you actually give it to me. When I'm thirsty and you give me drink, that's actually, Jesus said, that's actually also, I was present there. So we become friends for God as we become friends for others. Yeah, and sometimes in the difficulties, then we also remember of how, Jesus himself took that challenges to give his life for us by dying on the cross. And nowadays, there's no more cross, there's no more Golgotha, there's only Bukit Timah or like Marymount. There's no place to put a cross. So our life today is very different and not as like physically like bloody like at that time, but God endured those sufferings. And for us as well, with the challenges that we face, with the suffering that we have to encounter as we give our life, that's also how we can learn most from Jesus. So now we'll talk about like the passage from the book of Sirach that talks about friendship. It's one of the book that really describe about different types of friendship. So as we are going to read the word of God, let's quieten down our heart and we ask the grace of the Lord. Lord, Heavenly Father, as we come before you, want to hear your words, prepare our hearts, O Lord, and let your Holy Spirit speak to us and inspire us so that we can be the rich, fertile soil to receive your words. So let us read together. Blessed speech multiplies friends, and gracious lips friendly greetings. Let those who are friendly to you be many, but one in 1,000 you're confident. When you gain friends, gain them through testing, and do not be quick to trust them. For there are friends when it suits them, but they will not be around in time of trouble. Another is a friend who turns into an enemy and tells the quarrel to your disgrace. Others are friends, able companions, but they cannot be found in time of affliction. When things go well, they are your other self, and lord it over your servants. If disaster comes upon you, they turn against you and hide themselves. Stay away from your enemies and be on guard with your friends. Faithful friends are a sturdy shelter. Whoever finds one finds a treasure. Faithful friends are beyond price. No amount can balance their worth. Faithful friends are life-saving medicine. Those who fear God will find them. Those who fear the Lord enjoy stable friendship. For as they are, so will their neighbors be. The word of the Lord, friendly greetings. Those who are friendly to you be many. So here we may have 1,000 friends on Facebook who are friendly to us and accept our friendship. But 1 in 1,000, we are confident. What does confident mean? Anyone knows?
Someone we can confide with.
Someone we can confide.
confident with.
Confident.
Great connection.
Yes. Trust. Yes. So it's basically someone that we can trust, which, as you see, sometimes in 1,000 we find one, and we thank God for the one. And when you gain them through testing, do not be quick to trust them. For their friends when it took them, but they will not be around in time of trouble. Have you, no need to answer, have you experienced this kind of friends in our life? Or even have we ourselves become this kind of friend? Only when it suits us, and when it doesn't, we disappear. Another is a friend who turns into an enemy, tell the quarrel of your disgrace. So this is actually time when someone that you have trusted with some secret, and then eventually the secret suddenly become a news broadcast. And others are friends, stable companions, but they cannot be found in time of affliction. So this could be friends who okay, when we go out for dinner or we eat ayam penyet, we are all there. But suddenly when the person having problem, no one is around. So have we become this kind of friend to other people? When things go well, they are your other self and lord it over your servants. If disaster comes upon you, they turn against you and hide themselves. And maybe you can reflect, have we actually ever been someone that, when things go well, it's good to be present around the happy people. But when there are problems, okay, I have enough of my problems, stay away and don't bother. But faithful friends are sturdy shelter. Whoever finds one finds a treasure. Beyond price, no one can balance their worth. It's life-saving medicine, those who fear God will find them. And those who fear the Lord enjoy our friendship, or as they are, so will their neighbors. So how many types of friends do we see here? Two? So which one and which one?
Faithful and not faithful.
Faithful and the not faithful, yes.
Real and fake.
And the real and fake, okay.
Fair weather friends and all weather friends.
Fair weather, wow. Okay, how about the his weather? Any other guess?
Virtuous and non-virtuous.
Virtuous and non-virtuous, yes. So actually there are 3 types of friendship based on Aristotle. So I think long ago in one of the email session, this was being brought up. Anyone remember what are the 3 types of friendship? Utilitarian, yes.
Virtuous.
Virtuous. So what's one more?
Not so virtuous.
Not so virtuous.
Interest.
What?
Interest group.
Interest group. Yeah, so actually, yes, virtuous, non-virtuous, but actually there are 3. So the first one is utilitarian, like what Vina shared. So it's a friends that are united because of the mutual benefit. You do something for me, I do something for you. Okay, good, accept you as friends. And I think I do have this sometimes in the office, if this person reply my email, okay, I will reply back. If he never reply email before, I will not reply. So that's utilitarian of how we only approach someone when we need something. The second one is actually pleasant friendship. So it's about fun. What binds them together is actually the fun and pleasure experience together. So this is what the book of Sirach say, we are table companion, but actually in times of difficulties, the person disappears. So it's really like friends that, okay, we become friends because, okay, we like to eat hot pot together, or we like to go jogging together, and we become friends because of this common interest, or because we like to watch movie together or action movie together, and it bond us because of a similar interest. But the last one is actually actually virtuous friends, friends that are united for something beyond what is common, but it's beyond the common hobby or like the benefit that you can get is actually what binds a virtuous friendship is desire for what is best for the other, wishing good for the other, and basically the desire for virtues. And I think in this community is actually a place where we can actually develop virtuous friendship, because all of us strive for God, and God is the one where we can ask for the grace and the virtues, and that's actually virtuous friendship. So, is utilitarian and pleasant friendship wrong?
They're not even friendship, or why call them friendship for what?
They are friendship. Relationship, yeah.
Hey,
Yes. So, well, actually, to be honest, most of us start friendship is either utilitarian and pleasant. You know, like, I mean, to be realistic in our life, if the person like totally no connection, no nothing, like how to even start a conversation, right? Sometimes, and actually these two, it's not that they are wrong, but it's just that they are fragile. You know, like when you no longer see the benefit in each other, then like okay lah, no need to talk to you anymore because you know don't have anything that can benefit me. Or the pleasant one, like once it's no more fun, once everyone gets busy, once everyone stressed in their work, then okay, no more meet up already. Maybe next year when we are in our holiday, we can meet up again together. So they tend to be temporary and not lasting. Just like what the book of Sirach says, you know, like when it doesn't suit, when there's no more things that I can gain from it, they will not be around each other anymore. Or even pleasant when one time they are having fun in the same table, but after that they cannot be fine when things are difficult, because the difficulty is not fun anymore. So that's actually why two, although friendship tend to start in that way, which is also fine, but it doesn't last long. And so we are then called for that virtuous friendship. Can we be that virtuous friends that share the love in an agape way? But how then we can start? We are called to virtuous friendship, but you know, to desire for something beyond what is the fun and the happiness, it's not easy. But how then we can start to build that friendship that God is calling us, the type of friendship that God is creating us to be, you know, like with the desire for communion and deep connection, which is actually through the virtuous friendship. So for those of us who maybe like are not, like feel like, okay, I don't have any friends that I'm very close, so what should I do? And actually the simple ways that we can actually start, simple step to start friendship is as easy as eat, pray, and love. If you really think that you don't have anyone that you feel close yet, it's okay to start, you know, like finding things in common and invite each other for meals. And we learn of how Jesus himself, how he built the relationship and friendship, a deep connection with the disciple, is through eating, and he eats so many times. He doesn't get fat because he works so hard at and this at first I'm like, you know, there's a period of time in my life where, you know, like, okay, I think I need to stop dieting. I think I don't want to go out so often with other people, because if we go out, always have to go restaurant and then eat a lot, pay expensive. So at that time, I just want to have my dinner at home, eat a sandwich, so that I can also lose weight and save money. And I realized that in that moment, it does feel quite lonely. And but when I really just spend the time to spend to go out and eat with other people, that's actually when I can build more connection. I can start to understand different situation of the people around me, and and Jesus also. And Jesus didn't only have meals with the disciples once. He had the meals with the disciples several times. And that's also where like I realized that, like maybe for the person that we are not very close yet, maybe it's as simple as an invitation for a meal once, and then after that, ask again, maybe another week or the following week. And sometimes we are scared, right? What else to talk about? No more topic to talk about, but actually without realizing, sometimes if we just ask God for His help, through those moments of fellowship, through meals, we can open up and be able to share something that we may never know before. And then the second one is pray. To start friendship is by praying for the other. And why is that so? Actually, if we remember Jesus himself, as he want to build a relationship with the disciples, even with the sinners, he also pray for them. And pray, and not only to pray for them, which is like when he say, like, Father, they don't know what they are doing, please also, protect them. But also Jesus pray and ask God for strength for he himself, so that he can have that compassion to share with the disciples or even the enemies that are challenging. So similarly for us, as we want to build a friendship with others, want to journey deeper with one another, another way is also to pray for each other. Do we ask the other person of how they are and what we can pray for them, and to really think of whether the other person, whether how is the intention that they have asked. Like, do we just ask, oh, okay, I will pray for you, or do we actually follow up and find out how things has been for them even after that? And we will never know that, like the power of prayer is really powerful, that for the other person, when they know that someone is praying for them, it's actually really showing a lot of care and love that the other person can really encounter Jesus as well. And the last is actually love, of how the simple word but carry a lot of meaning, of how we actually can build friendship by learning how to love the differences, to love what Andre said, we are all created differently. Some are nerds, some are quiet, some are more talkative. How we can learn to accept those differences and accept the weaknesses for the other person. And once we are able to, come to realization that, okay, no one is perfect, then that's actually where we can learn to open up the door of deeper friendship with the other person. And but are these enough? These are, like, if we just eat or pray for the other, if we just go out to eat many times regularly, isn't that like also, what was the type of friendship just now? Pleasant friendship. So how do we actually eat, pray, love in a virtuous way? What?
Very virtuous.
Very nutritious lah, virtuous.
For the good of the other person's health.
And then you eat salad for
Yes.
yourself, also good for you lah.
Yes, good for you also.
Oh, okay. But then mutual benefit.
Nice one.
Yeah. So like as I shared earlier, it's okay. Sometimes friendships start with that. Utilitarian or lesson, because that helps to open the door and the connection. But how can we then continue this to build that virtuous friendship? And we recall again the definition of virtuous is to desire for what is best for the other. And in the book of Sirach, it's about how virtuous friends are sturdy shelter, beyond price, life-saving medicine. How we can build that friendship that can be that way, beyond the utilitarian or the pleasant or the pleasure that we enjoy together. So there are actually a few things, a few points that I will share on how we can actually build that virtuous friendship. So the first one is actually to be intentional in the friendship. To build that virtuous friendship and deep connection, it requires us to plan and make time for the other. And a lot of times, like for me last time, I thought like, okay, I'm very busy. When to have time to connect with others? Maybe later lah, when I have time, I'll meet this person because I think this person needs help. But I realized what happened after that is always have no time. And other things will come out as things that are more urgent, and eventually, okay, we never meet for almost a year. So to build a virtuous friendship and deep connection, we need to plan and make time. We make time for that person. And even like when we know like what happened to me, I have one quite close friend of my ex-colleague. And we know each other, like we are very busy. Somewhere she has like 2 kids and very busy at work. But as we come together and like, okay, we really just check, okay, what is your schedule? When is your next available weekday that is empty and can meet me? And it turned out to be like, okay, it's still 1.5 months later. But we decide, okay, well, let's just book it and make sure we meet. And it turned out that actually time flies. Already 1.5 weeks. Oh, finally I'm meeting you, and actually we can have really like treasure each other's presence because this person really make time for me, and she was also feel very appreciative that okay, you are serious about this friendship, and let's build that together. So plan and make time. It requires effort, and sometimes to share like what Andre mentioned, like people are different and difficult, and to love this kind of people sometimes it always requires the effort, and a lot of times to as simple as like to be able to travel and meet the person in the inconvenient time of myself, and to be consciously overcome laziness or even fear. And sometimes for me, like there are moments where to the person that I want to build deeper virtuous friendship with them, sometimes like lazy land, maybe I should change the schedule, or even sometimes I fear like okay, maybe I'm not in a good mood, should I meet the person now, or actually I should continue or not. And actually that's when we are able to be intentional and overcome that fear, that laziness. That's where like we can actually learn how to give our life for that person despite the difficulties. So be intentional. And the second one is to realize as well that friends are not equal to business. Like for me, I work as a marketing, and in marketing, like everything that we do, we have to prove how it can give us return. When we print a poster or even engage someone to work on a design for us, like we must be able to justify, okay, this one can get how many customers and potentially reach out to how many thousands of people so that we can eventually potentially get the sales back from what we do. But friendships are not like business. Sometimes we have to accept that we need to give so much more and has to be content to get so much less. And this is where the agape love that I mentioned earlier, that includes sacrifice. And sometimes for me, like as I want to learn to give my life for others, for the people around me, I realized that sometimes as simple as when I ask, oh, how are you? How's your day like? Anything that I can pray for you? And then the person, like if the person respond well and tell stories and all that, like okay, of course, I feel happy. But there are many times when, you know, like sometimes I ask and then not even respond well, and then sometimes never even ask back. And sometimes the tendency for me is like, yeah, this person never ask back. Yeah, next time no need to ask anymore lah. You know, like angry. You know, like why I have to care so much for the person, but the person never care for me. So these are always like, you know, temptation that I face a lot in as I want to build a virtuous friendship. But then as I realized of how much God has shared His agape love with me, how much I have sinned, but yet He always accept me back through the sacrament of reconciliation, how much I have been a prodigal son also to Jesus, and how much He has suffered on the cross. So that actually made me realize that, okay, actually, if God has done that for me, why am I demanding so much? Can I give my life for the others freely? And it took time, you know, like every time I do things, nice thing for others, or even buy something nice for a person because I know like the person like it, you know, the temptation always try to disturb me, you know, like and I believe you might also experience that, like why bother, you know, why invest the time if you don't get it back? But actually, the more I remember God and the more I deepen my relationship with Him, so that's the one that actually give me the strength that, you know, if God has shared with me that agape love, why can't I also share that agape love? And I would like to invite all of us to also look back in our life, like in the people that we have cared, or the people that we've encountered in our community, or even the people close to us. Have we felt that way? Have we been demanding back of what we've given to them? And there's this golden rule, right? Do unto others of what you want others to do to you. But it never say that don't do to others if the person never do to you. And it just kind of remind me that, you know, like when you give, can I give freely? Because God has given freely His love for me. And so as I remember that mindset, you know, despite all the temptation that like always make me think like, okay, kind of what's the ROI of spending the time, or what's the ROI of you know, like marketing my money, every money counts. But how can I actually be able to, okay, when I give, it's because God already give to me. And if the person never reply back, never mind, maybe someone else will ask me. Or when the person don't smile back when I smile to them, oh, okay, maybe that's the cross that I have to carry. That's just like how Jesus also being mocked by the other people as He carried the cross alone. And I realized that when I give more to others, somehow God always provide for me. I mean, like I never really ask for, like, you know, like a good salary and all that, but somehow God always provide enough for me. Even though like I like to give things, I like to buy things for others, but God always give enough. And I think that's really the courage that really strengthened me of, you know, like how we can actually give our life without counting the cost. How we can spend and invest our time, take the trouble to meet the other person. How we can actually invest our time to listen to the other person's difficulties, even though we are not asked back and we have to still struggle on our own. So this is really what that friendship, we can't count it like a business. We may not get in return, and we have to be content to get so much less. And that's where it is an agape love, to be sacrificial in what we do. And that's also like, the more I do it, actually it also helped me in my marriage life. You know, like, and a lot of times people, or especially me, like we tend to make assumption. You know, like, oh, I already washed the clothes and all that, okay, I expect Toby to also do something. Like he should be cleaning mopping the floor, but what he never do, you know, like, not just even with friends, but it will get carried all the way, even later on when we live our vocation, be it as a merit or even in religious, like it will form us to be that demanding person, like always wanting back. But actually, if we want to be that virtuous friends who actually just wish the good for the other, so it's about giving our time, giving our life to. And the third one is really about what Devi shared earlier about the story of Peter. And if you notice, like, if you remember the story, right? Jesus asked Peter 3 times. And imagining myself as a Peter, I think I'll also get irritated. Like, why you keep asking 3 times? Didn't I reply to you? Like, Jesus asked, do you love me? And yes, Lord, I love you. Feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord. You know, like, why you ask again? And then even third time, like Peter explode, like, yes, Lord, you know I love you already, but God is still asking him for the third time again, feed my lambs. And actually from this story, like it just made me realize of how actually even Peter himself, yeah, this great saint who built the first church, he was also still loving Jesus in the filial way. He treats Jesus as the brother that he loved because he's the one that has been journeying with Peter for a long time. But actually Jesus is asking him for that agape love. That when you love me, you actually feed the lambs, you just feed the people. Give your time, give your life for others. Because in the others, that's where God is present. So, even for Peter, he started with a filial love. And maybe for some of us, we realize, okay, Lord, I know I'm not so virtuous yet, but I'm here, and I still treat others just a brother and sister. I still cannot really give my life for others. And I think the invitation is for us to recognize where we are.